But when I had given some of this information to a few friends of mine and all this, and acquaintances, I noticed they kind of got a little depressed. So I thought, I'm going to have to shift this around because I wasn't seeing little happiness in the room. What we're looking at today is this time period from 2016 to 2024. And I've labeled it from dilemma and beyond for a reason. But to start with, we're going to do a little introduction on basic astrology because we don't want to assume that we're all on the same page. And there's a very important introduction I do with my clients to make sure we're not operating from a material mechanical view versus what I like to call the quantum view. And this is very, very crucial. And everyone in here is super hip. They know everything already. But we're going to make sure we're on the same page. Life is real interesting because it's that famous metaphysical phrase that life is only 10% of what happens and 90% is your response to it. And people almost have that backwards. They think life is 90% of what happens and then 10% of your response to it. And it's the other way around. It's very important to get that perspective very, very clear, okay? My favorite saying is life is not a problem to be solved, it's a joy to be manifest. And there are no problems in the universe, there are no problems anywhere. People go, BS, there's nothing but problems. There aren't, they're just manifestations. Everything is just a manifestation. It's a level of energy, a pattern of energy, a vibration of energy. And we're on this planet Earth in the little red schoolhouse of life, as I like to say. And the interesting thing about this little red schoolhouse on the prairie is that all the grades were put in one room, right? They didn't have them separated like we have in our modern era. So the first graders, second graders, 12th graders. So on planet Earth, we have all the grades together. Don't you love the first and second graders? They're Al-Qaeda, Hamas, those guys. Bikers, they're grade 9. Most of us are what I call the Starbuck group for level 35 to 45. Drive around, get our little Starbucks, think we're all civilized. And the mistake people make is they look down at these different levels and will actually label them, some of them, wrong. This is not the correct way you want to do this because everyone is just at their level of expression, their level of development. You would not go into a high school and say, what the hell are these third graders doing in the third grade? Excuse me? Yeah, you've got children in the third grade. Doesn't everyone graduate at the 12th grade, take analytic geometry? Well, yeah, we'll move them up tomorrow. We're going to put them in the 12th grade. They're going to study analytic geometry. Well, no, they're third graders. And the reason they're in the third grade is because they're third graders. They were in the second grade before, and most of them are going to progress to the fourth grade, hopefully after that. This is how our planet is. This is how life is. Everyone's at their unique level of expression. So when I talk to people about the natal chart, and y'all have a copy of, what's his name, Trump, and the solar eclipse coming up next month, and hopefully we'll have time to look at that, his chart rather. But there are two main points I feel that people have a misrepresentation of astrology. Over half astrologers still do what I called an old model, the 5th century material mechanical view of the universe. And the two areas we're going to look at are ontology and cosmology. So cosmology is just, what is this universe around us? What's the nature of this universe? How does it work? How is it constructed? Ontology is, what's your identity? Who the hell am I? What am I? And most people address these two issues from what I call the 5th century material mechanical view of the universe. Not anyone in this room, but the people out there in the public, okay? And it's like going out into a night sky and looking up at this beautiful country night sky through a Brahms straw, thinking you're looking at the entire sky. And you point out to your friend, and he goes, oh, what a great night sky view. And you go, dude, there's much more than outside this that's in your straw. You're missing almost literally everything that's going on in the sky. No, I'm seeing everything perfectly. So most people in the world have a straw consciousness. They literally, almost everyone living is missing almost everything that's going on in the universe. And that's an amazing thing to realize. This straw consciousness also is not to your benefit. People used to think the earth was flat. You'd fall off the edge if you went too far. So we're in this weird little manifested three-dimensional plane of extreme lack and limitation to what is actually occurring around us. And yet that's what people think is true reality. Not just true reality because this does exist. The appearance of this universe does exist. But it ignores the fact that's only inside the straw. There's so much more around it. Yet this approach is incorporated into metaphysics and spirituality beyond belief. And it's natural we do this because living and expressing through the 5th century physical form, we use our 5 senses to experience and interact with the universe, and we get very accustomed to this. Even when people talk about karma and reincarnation in a linear time, which of course there's no linear time, it actually doesn't work that way, nor does karma actually work that way. But that isn't wrong describing that way? Well, no. The story I like to tell is the woman who stops the train because the railroad tracks are pinching. And everyone's going into the metro, they get out and go, why the hell did the train stop? And one goes, are you kidding? Look, the railroad tracks, they pinch on the horizon. If we go further, she goes, it's the first time I've been on a train, but if we go further, we'll just fall off. And everyone goes like, are you kidding? She goes, I know. I thought I was hallucinating, so I took a picture with my iPhone plus 8. The iPhone. And even in the iPhone, the railroad tracks pinch. My scientific instrument does not lie. And you explain to her, well, I know it appears they pinch, but in reality, they're always parallel all the way to the station. It's perfectly safe to do that. And so is she wrong about seeing the railroad tracks pinch? No, but she's not right either, because in real reality, they do not pinch. In this relative reality, they do pinch. Well, I got news for you. The three-dimensional plane, as we know, is nothing but pinched railroad tracks. Almost everything we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and observe is not exactly what it is. We think there's solid matter everywhere. There's not like this tabletop is so solid. Matter doesn't even exist. You ask every quantum physicist on the planet, does matter exist? And every single scientist will tell you there is no such thing as solid matter in existence. And people go, really? Just go stand in front of a bus and explain that to you. And they will tell you, yes, do not stand in front of a bus because it will cream you, but solid matter does not exist. And so this quantum view is quite interesting. Even our modern science that does digital recording and lights, electricity, our internet, our phones, is classical physics, still based on the five-sensory model. And the majority of our science is still classical modern science, which is cool and groovy. We love all this new technology and stuff. But in the last not even 200 years, the last 100 plus years, we've been introduced to quantum physics. And why this is so interesting is that classical physics is like looking on an ocean, correctly describing how the waves move. And you can do laws and properties like in chemistry and biology and engineering. There's all these mathematical laws and all this. And you are correctly describing how these waves move, but you're forgetting, you're ignoring, the ocean goes way down. There's more than just the surface of the ocean. It goes way down. But the classical physical laws only describe the surface, the very just top surface. Quantum physics goes deeper into the ocean. And is it the final view? No, there will be much more than quantum physics. But why quantum physics is so weird is that it explains all this weird metaphysical stuff y'all do. All this weird spiritual metaphysical stuff you do. Because in quantum physics, the laws are quite different. There have been more books written on quantum physics and commentary by scientists than traditional science. Why? Because quantum physics is just so weird. In quantum physics, there's no time, there's no space, distance, location, cause, and effect. All that is gone. And one of the great models in quantum physics, the holographic model, really applies to astrology. And the holographic model says all the parts contain the whole contains the part, which is why you can take a holographic negative, which all of them look exactly the same, they're just ripple patterns on the negative. Crack it into 100 pieces and take any one of those 100 pieces, the full, complete, original picture will reproduce. Not like a regular negative. If you cut up a regular negative into 100 pieces, you're only going to see the 100th piece that you just cut up, not in a hologram. So the universe is holographic in nature. That's how astrology works. It's based on these quantum laws, not cause and effect. And this is very crucial because in the classical physical view, there is cause and effect. In reality, there is no cause and effect. Not at the deepest levels when you look at the deeper nature of the universe. And people go, what do you mean there's no cause and effect? I do this, I take a hammer, I smash a vase, so there's nothing but cause and effect around us. Yes, at the relative level. Just like the railroad tracks pinch all the time. You go back tomorrow, take another picture. They're still pinching. That vase is still cracking that vase, but in reality, there is no cause and effect. Well, what happens? Well, the same thing that Buddha described. He called it the phenomena of simultaneous arising. He actually said, you think this hammer smashes this clay vase, and it doesn't. The smashing of the vase and the movement of the hammer just take place at the same time. How weird is that? So is it wrong for people to talk about linear lifetimes? I went to a therapist, I had hypnotherapy, went into a past life, I feel better now. No, but you're still describing it at the railroad track pinch level. And it's not wrong to describe it that way, but it is wrong to think that's the full picture, and that's the only description, and that's a full description of reality. And why this is so challenging and difficult is that this, what I call the five-sensory material mechanical view, is really introduced into astrology. Okay, so a person goes to an astrologer, and their friends go, so you're going to this person, and they're going to look up at the sun, moon, and planets. and talk about your life. How the hell does that have anything to do with your life? Because here's somebody, what's the connection? And that seems a reasonable question to the person on the street, but what they don't realize is how unaware and unconscious and uneducated they are on the nature of the universe. You can only ask that question if you're stuck in the teeny tiny box of the five sensory material consciousness, because you think everything is separate. There's a famous Tibetan meditation monk who said, we live in a universe of solid, stable, separate objects that interact with each other. You just described classical physics right there. But that's not how the universe operates at all. It's all connected, it's all integrated. In classical physics, or quantum physics, you can take two particles and do what is called entanglement. All you gotta do is touch two photons together. You can separate them miles apart, and they will instantly turn in the same direction, the same degree, every single time. And people go, how the hell are they connected? Well, they're connected because they've been entangled, and time and space and locations and distance do not matter. And people forget the Big Bang, when it started, which they claimed it was the size of P, they're just guessing on that, making it up. But when the Big Bang started, everything was touching. Think of that. In that ball, everything was touching. The whole universe is entangled, because they can intentionally take photons and entangle them and twist them at the same time, and molecules, but we forget, no, the entire universe was all together touching at one time. And as it's infinitely expanded, it's all, as they say in quantum physics, entangled and therefore interconnected. So everything's connected to everything else. So, in that classical view, you have also the yang, the left brain male, which is very predominant. And as my friend Janice here, this great energy healer, you all know Janice over there, Janice Smith, at one of our Friday luncheons, she said, it's all just energy and motion. I thought, oh my God, that's the most brilliant thing I've heard the entire year. It's such a simple phrase, energy and motion. She just described everything in infinity with that phrase right there. Everything is just energy and motion of every type, vibration, and frequency. Even Nikola Tesla said, everything is energy, and the secret to it is frequency and vibration. And that explains everything. So the quantum view takes us out of this limited perspective. So it's not surprising then, having this holographic understanding that everything in the universe is connected, that you can look up here at the sun, moon, and planets and track and follow down here. So the simple version of this is the thermometer. This chart, Trump's chart, astrology, is just a thermometer. There's nothing in the chart that causes anything to happen. This is real crucial to understand. There's nothing outside of you making you do anything or running your life into this, but the whole universe is energy and motion. But it's not just barfed out there like a sick little puppy dog, not like our cute pumpkin in the corner, who I am taking home after this event. If he goes missing, you just come look at my place. The energy of the universe, as we know, based on the Fibonacci sequence, the golden phi, the golden ratio, this 1.618 ratio that's found everywhere in nature, the nautilus shell, the branches of a tree, the DNA spiral, how the rivers branch out are in a 1.618 ratio. It's sacred geometry. I'm sure people here do sacred geometry. This is the divine order of the universe. So why astrology is just a big thermometer. You're in your Colorado vacation at home, you look out, the thermometer reads 10 degrees Fahrenheit, you holler at your friends, get my heavy coat and my ice pick, I'm going out and chip off the bird baths that are frozen. And they go, what type of wizardry are you using? What type of magic? How dost thou know it's frozen outside? It's wizardry you're using. Dude, it's 10 degrees outside. If the water freezes at 32, it's not a big deal. The thermometer lets us do what? Track and follow the change in temperature. But does it cause it to be a hot or cold day? No. But does it let us track the hot or cold day? Yes. The planets are just rocks in space. They're not doing anything. See, in this classical physical view, which we've had in the last few thousand years, especially the last 600 years, they've tried to explain astrology from a causative effect. Must be gravity, must be electromagnetic waves. No, none of that applies. It's just pattern energy. We use this all day long without realizing it. You can watch the branches of a tree move in Oklahoma and know if the wind is blowing or not. They're a very good indicator to track wind movement. But do they make the wind blow? No. They're not causing anything to happen. Neither is the astrological chart. So we use it as a device to just track and follow what's going on, okay? Now, I have the little Dallas symbol on that little handout sheet, planet signs and houses. Astrology is real simple in a sense. It is. It's very, very simple and infinitely complex at the same time. The planets represent all the parts of the subject you're looking at. I do natal astrology, which uses this universal pattern to apply to the individual human being. And as I love to say, though, that natal chart is your natal chart. When you have your natal chart done, it's also the natal chart of every horse and cow and dog and bug and cockroach and bird that was born at the same time. Anything born or begun when you do an astrological chart, the horoscope means the time of the hour, has that pattern of energy within it. And what the natal chart shows, my definition, very short definition, is that it shows the person's instinctive tendency to think, feel, speak, and act in a certain style and manner. And those four functions, thinking and feeling, speaking, and acting, derive from the four elements, fire, earth, air, and water, which are the basis of astrology. And we think and we feel, we speak and we act. And everyone in this room, which is so hip and you know everything, knows that thinking and feeling are far more powerful than anything you say or anything you do. It's opposite there in the outside world. They think, no, action solves problems. You've got to take action. You've got to get stuff done. You've got to do stuff. And people find that very not successful. And the reason is almost every person living lives in a state of uninspired action, out of alignment action, unintuitive action. You want to get your inner thing all lined up first in a state of great harmony, and literally with no effort, things will fall into place. But that's how we live and learn, because we get that feedback from our actions, right? So the Taoist symbol I put there for a very good reason. I met this Chinese professor once, really spanked my behind. It was a great little conversation we had, because he basically said, you're incorrect about everything you're saying. Which I'm open enough to go, really, that's quite interesting. Because when you're talking about that symbol, which he goes, first of all, it's not a duality symbol. And I'm like, wow, it's like black and white. How could you not be duality? He goes, in true Taoism, that's a unity symbol. He goes, yes, there's yang and yin within it, but it's constructed with the black and the white on the opposite side to show the universe in motion. And he goes, no, it's really a unity symbol. Everyone calls it the duality symbol because it's unity. It's the one becomes the two. Always in constant motion and manifestation, right? He goes, but the interesting thing with that, he goes, because this was the point I was making, he goes, right and wrong, good and bad are not considered opposites in Taoism. And I'm like, wow, because that blew my little intellect, because they are opposites, like fast and slow, up and down, hot and cold, outside, inside. What do you not get? I told him about good and bad, right or wrong. He goes, no, they're not opposites in Taoism. He goes, Taoism is grossly mistranslated in the Western teachings, much like Buddhism. Those Four Noble Truths of Buddha, by the way, never taught them like that. This freaks people out. Yeah, 65% of the books of the West have the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. Never taught it that way, which is basically life is suffering, suffering is caused by desire, drop desire, follow the Eightfold Path. Buddha never said that. We can talk about that later. He never said that. So the Taoism, he said, so there's no good or bad, right or wrong, really. So what's the deal with that? He goes, but there is, people will say good and bad, right or wrong in life. They'll use that descriptive term. He goes, yes, it's like in your kitchen. You'll have hundreds of spices in your kitchen, sweet and sour, bland and bitter. No spice by itself would you ever call good or bad, right or wrong. They are just what they are, just like everything in manifestation, hard, soft, is just what it is. But if you take a big tablespoon, he actually said pepper, I'm changing it to a Hispanic influence. If you take a tablespoon of cayenne pepper, put it in a bowl of vanilla ice cream, serve it to you, guess you're a bad cook. They're not coming back. But does that make the cayenne pepper evil or the vanilla ice cream evil? No, it's just an inharmonious combination. And he goes, so you would call it correctly, relatively, that you're a bad cook. But if you took that tablespoon of cayenne pepper, put it in a big 8-quart stew of Mexican food, it would be delicious and wonderful. You'd be a good cook. So what he's talking about is when you take all these components of life and they're harmoniously blended and blended in balance and harmony and rhythm, we call that good. And when they're discord, they're out of harmony, disharmonious balance. That's how that works. Nothing in your chart is good or bad, right or wrong, anyone's chart. And people go, well, how does that work? Because I know a lot of assholes. That's a French astrological term. By the way, that's a French astrological term. The asshole. Okay? That's because the archetypes in astrology are universal symbols. And when you talk in a symbolic language, if I said, well, is a warrior good or bad? You go, well, it depends. If it's Adolf Hitler, we're not too fond of that. If it's a G.I. Joe saving a village with supplies and food and medical supplies, we think that's pretty much better. Every chart pattern has the option to be played off the top or off the bottom. Charts of criminals are 100% identical to police officers. Chart patterns of drug addiction and all this are 100% identical to people who meditate and do contemplation like that. Get high off drugs or high off meditation. That's where the free will comes into play. You don't have the choice with the chart you're playing with. You have the choice of how you drive it. And that's why I always like to say, I make this joke about the car and the human car. We all know everyone drives a car. You get in your car and out of your car, and it's the vehicle you use to get around the environment. But you know you're not your car, except for George. George comes to the office every Monday and goes, the Toyota's here. You go, George, you drive a Toyota. You're not a Toyota. No, I'm a Toyota. We remind you Monday through Friday, George, but over the long weekend, you always forget and come back and say, the Toyota's here. So, oh, that's right, I just drive a Toyota. I'm not a Toyota, I'm George. And we think that's funny, but everyone thinks they're their mind and body. You are absolutely not your mind and body. And everyone knows this is true. You have a body and use a body. You have